don't even remember now.
All right, hello. Wait a minute. We did it, you guys. We are live.
Quick, talk football while we're all connected.
Right. It wouldn't be the Zone Blitz without technical issues. Our longtime watchers, listeners know this. So welcome. We're back from hiatus, and we're very excited to talk to you guys about the 2016 NFL Draft. It was a busy time for a lot of teams, a lot of traders out there, traders in the good sense and not the bad sense. Kate and I will have a lot to say about that. But before we get started, of course, this is the Zone Blitz by NFL Female, www.nflfemale.com. I am Sharona. I am the official NFL fan reporter for NFL Female. And as always, I'm joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Sonja and Kate. And so without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Sonja and let her get us going.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sonja. I'm the official fan reporter for the Detroit Lions, minus A1 Calvin Johnson. But that's another story for another day. We just had the draft. I'm super excited to talk about how we did. My team wasn't as busy as Kate and Sharona's team, so
sorry, guys. One of our viewers is trying to get in touch with me, but I think that he finally got on and can see us now.
Okay, good. But that's okay. Welcome, Tom, if that's you.
Welcome, Tom.
Welcome, Tom. Thank you for hanging with us. So my team wasn't as busy as, say, Kate and Sharona's teams were, but it was still a good draft nonetheless. Kate, let's get to you. Say hi. Tell everybody where you're from and all that good stuff.
Hi, I am Cleveland Kate. I'm coming to you live from Northeast Ohio, the home of the Cleveland Browns and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Apparently, every team in the NFL gets a Buckeye except mine. Poor Sonja. I don't even know if any Wolverines got drafted. I'll have to go check the 6th and 7th round.
They did.
But I'm so excited that football season's going to start. I
know. It's just right around the corner.
Yeah. So
well, I have to say none of my Tennessee Volunteers got drafted. Not a single solitary one. I don't know. Yeah. 2 years in a row. Not good.
Wow.
Well, that just gives them the freedom to sign as free agency somewhere and pick their own places.
Yeah.
There you go, the bright side. The bright side.
There's always a bright side.
Always a bright side. So yes. Oh, good.
Is your stalker calling you again?
Yes. Sharona has a stalker, and that's okay. No, well, not really, but still. So let's go ahead and get started.
My tablet's across the room. I can't get over there to turn it off. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, turn it off. It's okay. You know where you see this type of stuff. Anyways, so let's go ahead and get started.
Let's do.
Exactly. Miss you guys.
For anyone who's new to this podcast, there's a lot of this that goes on. We talk football, and then we just make each other laugh, and there's a lot of giggling in football. It's just, and we're catching up from the last 5 months, so we're behind.
I know it's been too long. I'm so happy we're finally able to get back to doing this.
Exactly.
All right. Shall we talk draft? Shall we talk trade? Shall we talk my Cleveland Browns?
All right. Kate's Corner. Let's get Kate in here. Kate, you and I could have an entire show just on what Tennessee and Cleveland did in this draft.
We're going to trade back.
And trade back. Trade back. That rap song. Instead of lean back, it was trade back. On the bright side, for the first time in recent years, my Browns didn't do anything stupid like trade back up to take a player that's going to be a bust. They're getting a lot of credit for taking quarterback Cody Kessler in the 3rd round, and my thought is I'd rather have a quarterback from the 3rd round that ends up being a bust than one from the 1st round at, say, I don't know, number 22 overall. Police record, Johnny Manziel, can't talk about that. So... they've done worse things. It's difficult as a Browns fan to try to guess what they're going to do and get a handle and really prepare for the draft, because we've changed head coaches and front office people so often in the last 20 years that everything's a guess. But with this draft, it looks like Sashi Brown and DePodesta and all the analytics Harvard guys that they've brought in created a game plan, and they stuck to that plan through the entire draft. And that included ranking players in such a way that trading back might have more value than a player they would get. The first round saw us trading out of the number 2 spot weeks before the draft even started and moving down to number 8, at which point we made another trade down to 15 and got Corey Coleman, it was one of those things where that's who they really wanted it to, but they didn't want to spend a number 2 pick for him. So from a trading standpoint, the Browns went into this draft with 10 picks. They had their 7 regular picks and then 3 compensatory picks for free agents that left not this offseason but last year. So they had a total of 10 picks for this season. With all the trades that they did, they actually ended up taking 14 players in this year's draft, and they still have 2 or 3 picks in 17 and 18 as a result of all the moving around. We've got the Eagles' number 1 pick in 17, the Titans' second-round pick in 17, and then the Eagles' second-round pick in 18. So it's interesting. One of the interesting things to me is with all the trading they did, they turned 10 picks into 14 players plus some future picks. And I don't think that's bad. And the players they got, we've been sadly lacking at wide receiver for a long time. And the Josh Gordon situation, it looks like August before he can request reinstatement again.
Listen, he's done. He's done.
I think he's done. I don't know why they're even messing with him.
You don't miss this much football and come back and be a productive player. It's not going to happen. He's done.
And they drafted 4 wide receivers and a tight end who could be a wide receiver or a tight end. I want to call him a tight end because I think he'll have a better shot at making the team as tight end. I'm guessing of the other 4 wide receivers, at least 3 will make it. And so it clearly ought to be sending a message to Josh Gordon that there's no longer a place for you here. Yeah. So we just replaced 1 Baylor wide receiver with another one in Corey Coleman. We may end up with a Baylor quarterback in RG3. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The city's very mixed right now because this is Cleveland, and this is what we do 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So you have a whole lot of people who absolutely love the draft, which I think is a little crazy, and you have the same number of people who hate everything about it, which is equally crazy. I'm in the middle. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think things could go well. I got way too excited when we took Johnny Manziel, and I have learned that lesson. So we'll see if these guys make the roster, if they actually play, and what they turn into. I found it very interesting that on ProFootball.com, they picked the 16 worst picks and the 16 best picks of the draft. The Browns actually had 3 players on the best picks list, which surprised me. And the other thing that surprised me on the worst list, which probably won't surprise Sonja, is that 3 of the guys on the worst list were Buckeyes that were taken by teams. So they think that some of these teams completely overvalued some of the Buckeyes, like Nick Vannett and Eli Apple going to the Giants and Darren Lee. So we'll see if they end up being decent NFLers or if people just got swept up in it. I thought Tennessee, Sharona, did a very nice job with what they had with the moving around they did and, the way they kind of shored things up. A lot of the pundits gave the Browns and Tennessee both an A for the draft. Were you happy with the moves Tennessee made?
I didn't like them trading back up, taking Cleveland's number 8 pick. I felt like I like the player. I think Jack Conklin is a good player, and I'm happy that they selected him over Laramie Tunsil when you consider all the drama that's been. This was a relatively dramaless draft for them, and I'm happy about that because I'm fed up with all of that stuff. But my philosophy is you sit back and you let the draft come to you, and if you don't like the players that are coming to you, then you make moves like the Browns did, like the Patriots often do. The Bears did it this year, trading back, letting other teams, come in and get the guys that they want. I thought that it was a healthy price tag to pay again, I like the player. I just don't, I don't know that they got the best value in this draft, but I thought that they selected good players. They selected players that fit what they used to do, the identity that they used to have. And that is the thing that the Titans have been lacking for so long. They haven't had an identity. And so, I think that we'll see, of course, you never know. We'll see how it all works out. But every single one of the players that they drafted are guys that fit what they used to do, the way that they used to play. And I think that we're going to see a return to power football, and we haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, that's the second round pick that the Browns got next year is the one they got from the Titans for Conklin. I think in general the Laramie Tunsil situation changed an awful lot of things in that draft. If that story breaks a day before or even a week before, or heck, even 3 hours before the draft, it's a whole different top 10 in the draft. I don't think Zeke Elliott, the running back, goes at 4 if Tunsil's still there. I think a lot of people stopped trying to move up, and then a lot of people, I think by the time it got to Miami at 13, they had talked to enough people and had enough information that maybe the first 10 teams were afraid to touch him. Well, let's get real. Teams 3 through 10. So teams 3 through 10, it was too fresh. It was too new. They couldn't
I don't know. I mean, I know what the Ravens came out and said, but I was told in Chicago that teams already knew. That this was not, that this video that came out was not the thing that was making, well, most teams knew about it from what I was told. And I was also told that that there was more stuff out there, basically, that teams also knew about, and that, it's interesting. I think that what teams do and what your pundits and your so-called experts do are often very divergent. They're not the same, and you can be quiet about a lot of things because they guard their draft process pretty heavily. And I think that one of the reasons why the Titans did what they did is that they were afraid they were going to get stuck with Laramie Tunsil. I don't think that they ever had any intention on drafting him. I don't.
Well, I liked Conklin. I liked Ronnie Stanley better. He was my choice for the Browns at 8. Obviously, he didn't make it to 8 since the Ravens took him much earlier. And, there's just a lot of unexpected things. But to your point, teams guard their draft information very carefully, and I think they know a lot of things about the players that aren't public information that the media members don't know, because the teams need to make the best decision for their business. And, the Mel Kipers of the world need to make stories that people will want to read and click on. And so a lot of the
tied to agents,
all this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, your Mel Kipers, your Mayock's, your run-of-the-mill, everyday so-called draft expert is very tied to an agent. And whereas teams aren't, like that, even though they are in a sense, because coaches and a lot of GMs and stuff are represented by agents too. But you're right, Kate, I agree. They're beholden to the team and not to an agent.
Exactly.
So it's different.
Yeah. So, I someday in my spare time, I'm taking a vacation for a week in September, and what I might do is take my computer and pull up the internet and look at the last 10 years of mock drafts and give scorecards to the guys that are doing them, because I don't feel like anyone ever holds them accountable. Every year they come out and say they're a draft expert, and everyone's like, okay, and they read all 50 versions of their mock draft, but no one ever says, dude, you're not even close to being right. So I might just, because that's the kind of weird stuff I do in my free time. I run numbers and I look at that kind of stuff. Yeah. But, I mean, without Laramie Tunsil, this was a really boring draft. And I did a show with our girl Dana and with Lisa. Dana's the Seattle Seahawks fan reporter and Lisa for the Miami Dolphins. And we did sort of a pre-draft show. And that was one of the things that we talked about, was really how unsexy this draft was going to be. It was going to be a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of defensive backs. Once the 2 quarterbacks went, it was going to be a lot of boring stuff. There weren't going to be these big flashy moves to get, because it just wasn't that kind of draft. But I thought the trades were interesting. I thought the value they got was interesting. And I think for me, the biggest thing I learned about the Browns and the new regime that we have is part of analytics is finding out what the really good teams do that works and trying to do that. And the Patriots, as you mentioned, are big. If you look at their drafts, I mean, I don't know how long it's been since they actually picked a player in the first round. And, you know, they trade back and they accumulate picks and they pick as many players as they can to see who makes the team. And I sort of saw a little of that with the Browns this year. We actually drafted 14 players. And I don't know how many will make the final cut, but it's an interesting thing to watch. And the other thing is, I think for most of us, we're still in that era from before the last CBA where money was a bigger deal in the first round, especially in the top 10 than it is now. And so they talked about reaching and not reaching. And Sharona, I'm with you. I think you let the draft come to you. I don't think that there's really, you know, for some positions like an elite wide receiver or a cornerback or even a quarterback, I don't know that you can reach. If there's a guy you like and it's your turn, you go get him if you don't want to lose him. So
I don't know, but you said
in the later rounds, but not so much in the first.
You're a little leery about RG3, and I actually think that he'll do really well there. I think he's got the perfect head coach for him. But, you know, when you look at what the Rams and the Eagles gave up, respectively, to get Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, you know, of course, the Rams, back then they were the St. Louis Rams, were the beneficiary of that Robert Griffin III trade. And, you know, you have to wonder, I just don't know. I mean, I know that it's a quarterback-driven league, don't get me wrong, and having a good quarterback can make your team so much better, can help you hide a lot of flaws on your team. But giving up all of that for Washington did not recoup what they gave up. Let's just, you know.
No, but at the same time, the Rams did not take advantage of what they got. I would expect from everything that they got for them to be in a better position than they're in now. It's just interesting how you mess up a draft or two, it snowballs. And, you know, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
No, I mean, I agree. You know, well, the Rams get bit by that karma, too. You know, they got a king's ransom for giving up, you know, that number 2 overall pick. And you're right. They went 7-9 and 8-8 the last. I mean, it's not, you know, we talk about this on sports Twitter and, you know, sport in the sports Twitter social media sphere, I suppose, on podcasts and on the airwaves and stuff. You know, Jeff Fisher, it's amazing that Jeff Fisher still has a job, but he does.
I really thought he would head out to California and become a college coach when that USC job opened up, because he's got ties to them. And I thought, you know what, he's going to gracefully bow out with all the move and everything else that's going on. And that still could end up happening for him in the future. But you're right. When you say that it's a quarterback-driven league, you're absolutely right. But then you look at teams like the Seahawks from a few years ago, and I can even throw out the Denver Broncos, who didn't have anybody but Mark Sanchez on their roster the day after the Super Bowl, still managed to win. So you've got to have some kind of balance. You've got to have a good quarterback, but you've also got to have a running game, or defenses will be all over him. You've got to have a defense, or you're not going to have any, you know, time on the clock to actually run your offense. If you're letting them score 50, you know, you can't be scoring 51 every week. So I know
you got to move the sticks. I mean,
you totally got
sticks.
A lot of people here keep talking about finding that franchise quarterback, and I liked Jared Goff and Wentz, but I didn't think either of them was Mariota or Winston or Luck or RG3, what he was supposed to. I didn't think either of them was franchise quarterback material, and I felt and I watch a lot of college football, after the season ended, I felt like it was a whole Emperor's New Clothes thing of the media telling us how wonderful these kids were, and I'm like, you know, I watch an awful lot of college football, and I didn't think either of them were as good as they ended up being, you know, as their draft position ends up being. But I look back at my Browns, who have been a mess at quarterback for 20 years. We will have our 23rd or 24th starting quarterback in August. And yet, when Josh Gordon was good, he was the best receiver in the NFL. He had the most yards and the most touchdowns with 3 different wishy-washy quarterbacks. So you can get around. Alex Smith is the example everyone uses. If you just have a quarterback who's smart enough to not make stupid, boneheaded mistakes, you can find ways to get around that, and you can at least win games. When I live in a town where a 3-win season is, we've done worse. So if we win 3 games this year, 7 is like the highlight of the last 10 years. So maybe our expectations are lower, and that wouldn't go in other places. But we can be a little patient right now. We'll see.
Yeah. We're going to move on here in a few minutes and get to Sonja's shout-outs and talk about draft grades and winners and losers. But before we do that, because the Titans and the Browns did do a lot of trading, and there's been a lot of trading over the course of the past several years. Do you think is this a trend? Are we going to see more trades? Is this a harbinger of the future? Sonja, we'll let you get in here since Kate and I have been talking so much.
I don't think it's going to be as much of a harbinger of the future. I would think that, number one, if there's a player out there who's going to be good enough, of course you're going to see some trades and you're going to see people move around. But as teams like the Browns, I hate to say it, but as they, kind of get their stuff together a little bit and they start amassing picks and trying to do things, of course you're going to see some trades. And I think if you have a team like, I don't know, I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but somebody who's like sucky, extremely sucky, I can see them, once they start getting some better management in there, okay, yes, like the Browns, but starting to do some trades and things like that. And so, just to kind of amass some talent or at least try and get some new people in. So I think that that's part of it, but I don't think it's going to be like anything new or, where all of a sudden everybody and their mother is going to trade. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do see where, if you have a team that might not be doing as well or have a particular need and somebody is coming out, then of course you're going to see some trades and things like that. But I don't think it's going to, all of a sudden start being more trades.
Well, if I counted these correctly, I've got 54 trades involving teams for this year's draft. That seems like a ton.
That's a lot.
Of trades, and it feels like more than recent years. But part of that is one of the things that you see in the NFL is they do the profit sharing, and there seems to be less space between the good teams and the bad teams than there are in other sports. And so I wonder if part of that is the good teams don't need as many players right now, so they're willing to trade back to reload, so to speak, and to get future picks in case they get an injury or they need to get something next year. And so the better teams are willing to move back, and the teams that aren't as good are willing to give up more to move forward. And maybe every year it's a different group of teams that are willing to do the moving around.
I don't know. I think that we're seeing an uptick. Is it going to remain that way and be a trend? Maybe in the short term. I sort of tend to agree with Sonja in that I don't know that it's going to be a long-term thing. But, I don't know. And, and we're also, Kate and I can speak to this, we're seeing an era where there's less room for error for coaches and general managers and
I could speak to
quarterbacks. Owners are, part of that is because the money situation via the rookie wage scale and all that has changed. But owners are much more willing to shake things up than they have been in the past. And when you've got new personnel coming in, I think that the pressure is there to do things quicker.
And especially when a team
over quicker.
Yeah, when Pete Carroll started to have that success in Seattle, you saw a sudden interest in all these college coaches. We need to get rid of, we're firing everybody who didn't win 8 games, and we're going to bring a whole bunch of college coaches in. And so that was like kind of the new thing. And it comes and goes. But these coaches are really, I think, more than ever, and maybe more everywhere except in Cincinnati. I don't know how Marv Lewis still has a job, but if they don't win, they're gone. Here in Cleveland, you get 2 years. Sometimes you get 1 year.
1 year.
Exactly.
2 years gone. But we're not the only team who are holding the coaches accountable and getting rid of them if they're not winning in the regular season or winning in the playoffs. And so that's probably also got them treating the draft differently, because Hugh Jackson came out and said this week, he's our Browns head coach, that Cody Kessler was his pick for quarterback in the 3rd round. It was the quarterback he liked in the draft. He took him when he wanted him. If he works out, great, and if he doesn't, he was willing to own that pick. And I thought that was very interesting, because nobody would own the Johnny Manziel pick from 2 years ago. Nobody would say whose idea that was.
They kept pinning it on the homeless guy, the poor homeless guy.
I know.
Him and Jimmy Haslam, that's who did it. So it's an interesting thing to watch going forward. But
all right, well, let's move on and get into winners and losers and best value picks and things of that nature. So Sonja, you're up next. Sonja, shout-outs.
Sonja's shout-outs. Okay, so I would like to shout out the Jacksonville Jaguars for making some pretty good moves. They made some pretty good moves. They got a lot of defensive guys. Shout out to them. Shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You know, they've done really well the last few years in the draft and free agency and stuff. There's no excuses for Gus Bradley this season. None.
No.
Well, and we talked about them quite a lot during the season, that they were kind of a team to keep an eye out, and they were building, and it was taking them a while, but they're going to be on a lot of people's sleeper lists this year of the team to watch out for in their division, just to make vast improvement, because they seem to be building it slowly but the right way.
Well, they should. I mean, the AFC sucks, and, you know, that's part of the reason why, you know, Ken Wisenhunt and, you know, the Titans, there's been some upheaval there. It's been a division that they should have done a lot better in, and they didn't. And, you know, so yeah, you know, it's going to be very interesting. You know, you know, speaking of quarterbacks and what have you, you know, the Texans taking that chance on Brock Osweiler, who started 3 games or something like that.
Exactly.
Got a ton, you know, but when we were talking about quarterbacks and winning and moving the chains and all that, my mind automatically flashed back to the playoffs, and literally the worst quarterback performance I've ever seen in my life came in courtesy of the Houston Texans. And, you know, so, but it is going to be interesting to see what happens.
That'll be really cool to watch. Keep an eye on. Let me see, who else was another winner in the draft? You know, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you who was a winner in the draft.
Okay,
Eli Apple and his mama.
Oh yeah,
I love him.
Yes, and Laquan Treadwell's little girl.
Eli the Big Apple.
Yeah.
Do you hear the last time a team reached that high for an apple, it was Adam and Eve?
What'd you say?
The last time a team reached that high for an apple was Adam and Eve.
Yes, exactly.
I cracked me up.
His mom is pretty amazing.
Yes. I thought he went too high. I'm a Buckeye girl, and I thought he went a little higher than I'd have taken him, but that's okay.
And you know what? Yes, they were the big winners in this draft, the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, goodness. Michigan now has an excuse. We lost to all those NFL players.
In Harbaugh's defense, weren't none of those guys who left school his. They weren't his draft class yet. I think next year we'll finally see some people he drafted.
Actually, I was about to say next year you probably will, and so there will be that. Although technically, you can call Jake Rudock. You can call that his. You can call Jake Rudock his.
Yes, he didn't draft him, but he did greatly improve that kid's abilities.
God, yes.
He looked like a quarterback at the end of the year. So
exactly, he was very good. He was very good. So those are some of my bigger winners and my big shout outs. Also,
what did you think about the Lions draft?
I loved the Lions draft, to be quite honest. They shored up their offensive line, which has been an issue past
Tennessee
couple
and
years.
Detroit really went for the trench guys.
Yes, they did. We really went trench this year.
And that's exciting for me, you know. I mean, I know those aren't sexy guys for a lot of people, but that's my kind of draft.
Exactly. That's where it's won. I mean,
I like
being able
big
to keep
butts.
Stafford on his feet, that's always a good thing. And, you know, just, linemen. Got to get them.
I need a T-shirt that's got a picture of, like, two guys, helmet to helmet, and a little thing on the bottom that says, I like big butts.
I like it. We should trademark that.
I cannot lie. I like the big uglies.
What was your favorite pick by the Lions?
Let's see. My favorite pick was Ashawn Robinson.
Yeah.
I am in love with him. I think he is going to be a beast on that defensive line. I think hopefully he'll come in, with that same toughness as Sue did, but hopefully not with that same kind of being. I love Sue, I do. But, he had a lot of drama and stuff like that with him and a lot of mystique. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, just Ashawn Robinson doesn't have that type of, mystique, personality, that type of thing so far. Mm-hmm. So I think that he's going to be a really good addition to the team, help shore up that defensive line, start going after some quarterbacks, and just really making life hell for them. Yeah. So I can't wait to see him out there.
Yeah, I think that you win and lose games in the trenches, and it really was for me, kind of refreshing, and somebody said earlier in the show, cautiously optimistic. It does make you cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, it does.
When you at least see, the team making an investment like that. And, I think that was one of the things that stuck out for me from the Titans draft. A team that, you mentioned the Jaguars, and I would have to say a team that's very similar to them that I thought has done a very good job in free agency and in the draft, considering where they were, the past few years, and that's the Oakland Raiders. I thought that they had a nice draft, and maybe things are looking up for them too.
I thought their Connor Cook pick was interesting because Derek Carr is clearly their starting quarterback and has got a future for him, and I think Cook is the kind of a quarterback who needs a few years on the bench to grow up a little bit and to learn a little something, and that may end up being the perfect place for him because as long as Carr stays healthy, he can just sit and learn and watch, and then, God forbid, something happens to Derek and he misses a few games. You've got a nice guy to come in and take in. But the Raiders have done a very nice job, and they've been very quiet. They've kind of flown under the radar of just solidly getting themselves together, and it'll be interesting to see, especially on defense, since Woodson retired, to see who comes up as the defensive leader for them next year, and what that turns out to be. So I'll enjoy watching those games.
You would think it would be Khalil Mack, right?
You would think, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Who's going to step up into that role when there's nobody there?
Some guys are just quiet, and and they like to be quiet. And you can be a quiet leader. There's no doubt about that. But it will be interesting. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Sonja, did you have a team that you thought was the clearest at the bottom, the clearest, I hate to say loser, but a team that you didn't particularly care for their draft?
No, not really. I mean, I think everybody did okay. I mean, there are a couple of moves that made you go, but overall, I think everybody did.
Like Tampa Bay moving up to select a kicker?
Yes, that just made you go, huh? I mean, okay, if that's what you want to do, hey, there you go. And moving up for a kicker. Now, granted, that's a very good kicker, the best kicker in Florida State history, so there's that.
Yeah, but you just don't do that. No, you just don't do that.
No, you don't.
Jim Tressel used to say the punt was the most important play in football. I don't think you move up for it either. And even in my fantasy football drafts, the first person to take a kicker has to buy the next round of drinks. So I'm not sure what they were doing. I'm not sure what the Atlanta Falcons did either. That team has just underperformed and underwhelmed me for years. And they took Keanu Reeves, the cat, something in the first round, who was like, wasn't he, barely in the top 100 college players at his position. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
I didn't pay a lot of attention to the rest of their draft, but that team could use an awful lot of stuff, and I just don't feel like they addressed any of their needs. They're just a hot mess down there.
Yeah. I kind of felt the same way about the San Francisco 49ers. To me, they clearly had the worst draft out of all the 32 teams. I thought that it was just a weird draft for them. They didn't really address things that they should have addressed, and you want to do best player available, and I understand all of that, but you also have to fill holes. You have to be realistic. You have to field a team, and I was going back yesterday and before we got started tonight, and I was looking at things, and I was like, what are they doing? I just, with everything that they have done, with the gym, Harbaugh thing and all that, I honestly don't understand what they're doing.
I agree. That's a locker room that's a hot mess, and a front office that's not much better shape. So
yeah, I just don't get it.
That's not going to be a pretty team next year.
No.
No,
it'll be interesting though, because are you all coming to the Hall of Fame? Because isn't Eddie DeBartolo Jr. getting in this year?
Yes, planning on it. Planning on being there. Fingers crossed.
Potentially, yes. Again, fingers crossed. Hopefully, I'll be able to make it.
Now, Sonja, the Titans and the Lions play this year, and that's in Detroit, right?
Yes, it is. It's in Detroit. It's on my baby's birthday. It's on September 18th.
I know. I think we had a conversation about this, and we might just have to make something happen there.
I mean, you are more than welcome to come on. We can do something. We can do something.
You guys, I got, of course, I'm a Southern girl, in case you didn't know.
No.
And so I had so much going on in the 2 months leading up to the draft, and I was hoping that everything was going to fall into place and I was going to be able to make it and all of that. And then like the weekend before the draft, I cracked a tooth, and so that kind of put a whole thing. So I was able to get in to see my sister's dentist, and there's always a story. So anyway, I got to go to the draft, and I'm a Southern girl. It's fairly warm here, not outrageously warm here, but fairly warm. So I had on sandals and pants and a short sleeve T-shirt, and I took similar items with me to Chicago. It was cold.
Yes,
now,
it was.
I'm not just, and it was cold that even Chicagoans were like, it's cold.
I was about to say, it was kind of cold and gross last weekend.
I was like, so I had to buy a jacket and all this kinds of stuff. So I promised if I do, I'll come better prepared.
Come on, bundled up.
Yeah, right.
Although it's September, so the weather's hit or miss. You could have, 80 degrees. You could have 50 degrees.
But y'all play in a dome, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So we play in a dome.
Well, you can stop here on the way there. We'll break up your trip. You can stop and see me on your way to Sonja's. I'm on the way, sort of, ish. If you go.
Yeah, I've been to Kate's house. It was fun. That was a fun time. So, Kate, who had your favorite draft? I know the Browns. We've talked about them, but outside, the Browns, who had your favorite draft?
Well, I really liked what Jacksonville's doing. I really like what Oakland's doing. I feel kind of bad for the Houston Texans because I really wanted to like their draft, and I just think they've got too much mess going on right now, and they can't pick a direction. And I'm not sure what's going on down there.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien's got his hands full, and maybe the Hard Knocks curse. I don't know. Do we know who's going to be on Hard Knocks this year?
Do we know yet?
I think it's the Bills. Is it the Bills?
Oh, that
Ryan
surprise me.
I think it's the Bills. Oh my God.
Yeah. All right,
Anyway.
there's the train wreck about to happen.
No, I agree. It's like maybe there's some sort of tug and pull between Rick Smith and Bill O'Brien. It is weird. Their draft was kind of odd too, I thought.
Yeah. So sadly I thought the Ravens had a very nice draft. I worry most about the teams in my division. The Bengals didn't impress me, and I thought the Steelers draft was terrible. But I thought what the Ravens did was very interesting. So they're going to be really tough this year. They took my boy Ronnie Stanley out of Notre Dame, and a couple other players that I think are going to give me a hard time twice during the season. So it'll be interesting to see how the division shakes up. We used to be the basement of this AFC North division, and will probably be in the basement again this year. But I don't know that the other three teams are going to be as competitive as they've been in years past. They've been very dominant all over the place, and I don't know. Pittsburgh's age is finally catching up with it, I think, and their draft was just bleh.
Yeah. I admire Ozzie Newsome a lot, and he's been able to work magic throughout the years, and of course, the past couple of seasons has been a big disappointment for them and their fans. Oh, the AFC North is going to be an interesting division to watch this year.
Yeah.
And I lied. It's going to be the Rams on Hard Knocks this year.
The Rams? Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, I remember that now because I was surprised. Jeff Fisher's not the kind of coach that would welcome something like that. There must have been some kind of agreement.
But he is adorable.
Yeah.
You goofballs.
Well, we are girls. I just have to remind you, I do think he is the cutest NFL head coach. I just got to think for that.
Oh, no, Lord, no.
Oh, yeah.
No. Who the cutest? And I think John Harbaugh's cute. I think John Harbaugh's attractive. I think.
I can see that.
I
can
think,
see you saying that.
The Jets coach. What is
Pebbles?
his name? No. What is? He came from Arizona, and I love him. Todd. Anyway.
Bowles.
Yes, Bowles. Thank you. I think he's cute. What's his name? Adam Gase is kind of a little cutie pie, sort of.
In his own little way, yeah. I can see that.
See, I feel like I could take him. Like if we were in a bar fight and things got brutal, that I could take him.
And Jason Garrett both.
Well, Jason Garrett.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We could each take turns. We could beat the crap out. He's easy.
I think Ron Rivera's kind of. I think he's attractive. He's an attractive.
Oh yeah, he's got a little something going on. He's got a little Riverboat Ron. He's got a little mystery going on. This is probably too much information for our male viewers.
And I guess Bradley's. He's an attractive man, and the dude in Atlanta now, Dan Quinn, he's an attractive man. All right, I don't know how we got off on this.
I liked Sean Payton before the suspension. I don't feel like he looks the same. Like, I don't know if he had work done when he was suspended or if time is just taking its toll on him. But if you look at before and after pictures, it's like when you look at the president.
He had a little bit of a little boyish look to him.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I have a soft spot in my heart, too, for the Arizona Cardinals head coach.
Bruce Arians?
Uncle Bruce, I want to have beers with Uncle Bruce and sit down. I don't always agree with his opinions, but I like Uncle Bruce.
I'd like to hit 9 holes of golf with him and then sit and drink afterwards. I think he would be fun to sit and chat with, just to kick it with. I like him.
Yeah, he would. He would be fun.
That's exactly what a guy wants to hear. 3 women on the radio talking about how they'd like to have a
track. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
but to our credit, I think this is the first time we've ever really talked about anything like that on the Zone Blitz. So there's that.
Yeah, we don't get into we don't get into that stuff too much, but sometimes
it's the off season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Season. So let's talk about value picks. Who do you think had the best value pick and why? Kate, we'll start with you.
Oh, I'm going to have to say my Browns because I just love that they got the number 1 wide receiver on almost everybody's board at 15 and got 4 more players to go with it. It's part of that whole trade down mentality is we picked up 4 extra bodies next year just getting down to 15. So there's a lot of value there as long as he makes the team and makes the field and doesn't get hurt. That's for all these guys. But
Yeah.
I have to go homer with my Browns.
All right, Sonja, what do you think?
Best value. Potentially Mr. Henry to the Titans. I think that was a good value. He was good. You didn't spend too much for him, so a good second-round pick for Derrick Henry. I think that was a very good value.
I loved the pick. Our friend Keith Myers asked me, because I was in Chicago live tweeting the draft, and he asked me, they were on the clock, and he asked me who I wanted them to pick, and I said Derrick Henry, and so of course I was very excited when they usually pick at least one player that I've scouted or whatever, and so I'm glad to see they didn't during the Wisenhunt regime, but they have in the past, and I'm happy to see that tradition return. I love that pick, but of all their picks, I think probably the offensive guard that they took later on in the draft, Sebastian Tortula. I think he's going to, he may end up taking Chance Warmack's job. And he may end up being their best value pick, but I do love the Derrick Henry selection, and I don't understand all the pearl clutching over the fact that they traded for DeMarco Murray and then drafted Derrick Henry. Listen, bold statement.
You never have enough, number one.
Now, listen, bold statement incoming, but I'm here to tell you right now that Derrick Henry is the best running back on their roster. I do not care whether he has taken an NFL snap or not. He is absolutely the best running back on their roster right now, and I think that you're going to see him get significant carries early on, even if DeMarco Murray manages to stay healthy.
Well, I'm the wrong person to weigh in on that topic because I've not had a good history with running backs from Alabama. Trent Richardson.
Well, true. Well,
they've not done well for me.
Derrick
Were you
Henry,
surprised that Ezekiel Elliott went before Henry?
Yes.
No, I was not.
I was not surprised that he went to Dallas. I was surprised they traded up to get him. And I sort of attributed a little of that to the Larry Tunsil mess, is that people were scrambling to reorganize and move around. Yeah. But
so
I know he's a Buckeye, so I know my Buckeyes, but that was one of the things that I liked about Zeke over Henry, is that he's more than just a running back. He can catch out of the backfield, and he actually blocks and can do a lot of other things. So I thought that made him a little more versatile. But if you need just a running back, Henry's got skills. We'll just have to see.
He's a grown man.
How
he's
it
been
translates.
Playing grown man football in the SEC for, I think that I think that it's an outstanding pick. He's going to fit exactly what they're going to do, in the power run game, and I think it's. I don't understand the people that are unhappy with that. Well, you can never satisfy everybody.
No,
right?
you can't. You're never gonna.
But all the hand wringing over that, I just don't get. Since we've mentioned him a few times, let's wrap things up and let's talk about Laramie Tunsil, that situation, and I was a little. Listen, there, it happened. Clearly, the guy was hacked. He wouldn't have done that on his own. Clearly, somebody was out to get him, and I think that's unfortunate. Regardless of what Laramie Tunsil did or did not do, that's a low-quality person to do something like that to a young man. So let's talk about that, and then I want to get your thoughts on. There's no good. I don't think that there was ever going to be. Speaking of not being able to please everybody, Roger Goodell was not going to be able to say anything about that was going to please everybody. But I thought that all the hand-wringing, pearl clutching over his statement was kind of crazy too. What did you ladies think? Sonja,
who are you starting with?
You.
Okay. Laramie, that was just, that person, whoever did that to him, was not, I don't know, just evil. Just straight evil. Like, there's hating, but then there's this. And you're messing with somebody's income. What did he do to you? I just need to know, what did he do to you that caused you to do something
hurt you,
bad?
right?
What'd you say?
Who hurt you, right?
Yeah, seriously. What did he do? Like, I don't know. That was awful. That was just unfortunate and awful. And like you said,
do we know for sure who it was? Because the night of, there were rumors that it was his stepfather as retaliation for something that happened with his mother. But then I heard something today about one of his financial advisor or somebody. You know there's going to be a lawsuit. That clearly cost him money.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's going to be a lawsuit.
Well, it didn't just cost him. It's probably going to end up costing Ole Miss too, because they also tweeted out NCAA violations, and that to me. And then he was asked about it, and he confirmed it. And
but they were text messages admitting to take in money for whatever and whatever. I mean, Ole Miss program.
Yeah.
They may get the death penalty for this.
They're they're already in trouble. It's going to be ugly, and. And here's the thing, I mean, and I know this is no justification or whatever, but really, they're not the only ones doing it.
Oh, gosh, no. No, not at all.
So,
not at
all. For me, this is the same as the Johnny Manziel situation or the Josh Gordon situation or anything else. What it comes down to is these young men are not choosing their friends wisely. You don't hang out with people who are going to take your picture or take a video of you and do whatever they want with it. And while this was allegedly, this video of Laramie was from high school, and I did see reports from Ole Miss that he had passed every single one of the drug tests that he had been given, so this is all old news. He still thought it would be funny to make a videotape of him misbehaving like that. Maybe I'm just lucky, because when I was in high school and college in the 80s, if you wanted to take a video of someone, you had to haul out this big mama camera, and only 3 people in your city could afford to have one, and you had a beta cartridge, which you can't even play on anything now and get digitized. I didn't have to worry about. You could tell stories about what I did, but there was no video proof. Now,
I say all the time, I'm glad. Yeah.
Everything. Right. Cautionary tales.
I'm glad there was no social media when I was in college.
Yeah. I have 3 grandsons, and if they get to high school and they have any hope, dream, or whiff of a professional sports career, I'm going to delete their Twitter, I'm going to delete their Facebook, and I'm going to disable the cameras on all their phones and their friends' phones. Because Lord knows, by the time the oldest is 5, by the time he's ready to go to college, you probably have an implant in your head that takes a video of everything you see. I don't know.
Exactly. But you're right, though. You're right. I mean, these guys have to have like a no phone policy or something, or put it down, or it's got to be in a safe something, and just go back to that.
Internet is forever, people.
Exactly.
The internet is forever.
To record everything. You don't.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing. You don't have to record everything.
While it was going on, I tweeted out, I feel bad for him. I felt bad as he was moving down in the draft and nobody was taking him. But I said point blank, the reality is the Browns can't touch him. We've got too many PR problems with Josh Gordon and Johnny Manziel. We're one of those teams who couldn't take a hit. Apparently Miami thinks they've recovered enough from Ricky Williams and all of that business that they could take someone else with a little bit of a gray cloud hanging over him. It's
no pun
good for them. I hope he balls out and plays really well for them, and everybody's happy. But there were teams like the Browns who just couldn't do it, either because the news was too fresh or because you just, from a PR standpoint, that would have become the story. That would have just been nothing good he could have done would have ever changed that here. At least here. Got a chance at a fresh start somewhere else.
And the Titans were that team too. Another thing that I was told during the draft was that they were not going to take any character risks. They were going to focus on all high character guys. And I was like, heading up there and preparing for the draft, I was like just praying for a drama-less draft. And so outside all the trading and whatnot, it was, I thought, one of those drafts, a good solid draft.
Mm-hmm.
I understand teams saying, because the Browns say, we want high character guys, we want this, that, and the other thing. You know what? This isn't basketball. I mean, this isn't baseball or golf. This is football, and you need a couple mean, questionable, and Ndamukong Suh kind of guys on your roster, because underneath the pile, things need to happen. I'm wondering if that's a lot of why Connor Cook rolled as far down the rankings as he did, there were a lot of the big character question I just kept hearing from people was he wasn't even elected team captain.
That was the biggest thing.
What does that mean?
Everybody said his teammates hated him.
And yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard guys say that, they absolutely couldn't stand him. Then I heard other people saying, whatever, he was the greatest quarterback ever, and whatever, he could be a little bit of a dork, but
yeah.
Whatever. But the biggest thing I heard was captain, that he wasn't elected captain.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was that big of a deal.
Yep.
But at the same time, I guess in this age of, accountability and your quarterback is your face.
I think
you have 6 captains.
I think it's because quarterback, and I think it went beyond captain. I think it was that despite being a good quarterback, he didn't command the respect of his teammates.
Right.
And that's not what you want out of your quarterback. And so we'll see. NFL. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right, well, let's wrap things up and go ahead and let people know where they can find us. And we're going to try to get back on Spreecast. Every time we've tried to do it, it's been a process. Yes, an adventure. So we're going to work on that. Hopefully the next time that you see us, it will be on Spreecast, and we're going to be lining up some great guests for you guys. And so we're excited to be back. It is May. Gosh, it's May. And so OTAs are around the corner, and then training camp. We might not do a show every week, but we'll be back on and doing things periodically. So we'll let you guys know out there on Twitter and Facebook where you can find us. So Sonja, I'll bring you in and let you tell everybody where to find you, and then Kate can go, and then we'll sign off.
Awesome. I'm Sonja, the official fan reporter of the Detroit Lions. You can find me on Twitter at mom, 2, 3, RN. Yes, 2, 3. You can find me on Twitter there. Hit me up. Love to get in touch with you. Get to know what you think about things, and let's debate. Let's talk about it.
Right, Kate.
Kate.
Hello, I am Cleveland Kate. You can find me on Twitter at CLVLNDK, 8. I'm the official fan reporter for the Cleveland Browns. And just because Cleveland has the Browns doesn't mean we don't have other teams and other sports that are in the playoffs, like the Lake Erie Monsters, who are a hockey team in the AHL playoffs. And wait, I think there's another one. The Cavaliers, who are currently undefeated. So we have hope. Yeah, we have hope in this town. Sharona, you might want to let people know why we want to do Spreecast for these shows instead of the Google Hangouts, because I think the interactive options for them on Spreecast, that I think they'll really like that.
Yeah, Spreecast is a lot more interactive. You guys can post questions and submit things for us to consider. And if we like what you're proposing, we'll bring you on screen with us and let you chit-chat with us. And also, NFL Female is not just NFL Female. It is also NASCAR Female and all kinds of other sports, too. So we are now the Sister Hub, the Sisterhood Hub, and so we have shows that cover other sports there as well. So we need to migrate over there and get with our other sisters. And Spreecast is a very cool, as Kate mentioned, interactive website. I am Sharona. You can follow me out there on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. And we will be back next week, and then we'll let you guys know what our schedule is going to be. And, of course, we'll let you know whether it's going to be on Spreecast or Google Hangouts. Shout out to Liz, as always. Be sure to jump on our website, www.nflfemale.com. Check out all the great articles. Have a very great evening, and thanks for joining us. Good night.
Night.
Good night.